It is often said that people in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. How sturdy are the walls that house the Phillip Schofield defenders? Let's take a look. Legendary singer Sir Elton John and his filmmaker husband David Furnish. Prince Andrew's former wife Sarah Ferguson, the Duchess of York. Broadcaster, journalist and TV personality, Piers Morgan. LGBTQ+ rights campaigner, Peter Tatchell. And Saint Trinian's actor, Rupert Everett. Each and every one of them has leapt from the shadows to defend the disgraced former ITV This Morning presenter, Phillip Schofield. We'll begin with Sir Elton John and his husband David Furnish and their comments regarding the scandal. The Rocket Man singer, 76, has claimed that a heterosexual relationship with a similar age gap would not have attracted such negative media coverage. Speaking to Radio Times ahead of his headline set at this year's Glastonbury Festival, he said, "I feel that the Phillip Schofield thing has been totally homophobic. If it was a straight guy in a fling with a young woman, it wouldn't even make the papers." Elton's husband David Furnish, a gay rights campaigner and AIDS activist, also had his say on the Phillip Schofield scandal, stating that it unfairly got more coverage than Boris Johnson did for misleading Parliament over Partygate. He said, "If you weighed up the column inches that they gave to Phillip Schofield and what happened with Boris Johnson, you will find a great difference. And that, to me, points to homophobia." In an article dated September 26, 2007 by CTV News, Elton John said that he owns a photo of two naked girls taken by award-winning photographer Nan Goldin, who is best known for her documentary photographs of the gay community. The image was seized by police at a British gallery and Elton John confirmed ownership of the photo, which is entitled "Clara and Eda Belly Dancing," in a statement on his website. He said it was among 149 images comprising of Goldin's Thanksgiving installation that he purchased in 1999. He added, "The photograph exists as part of the installation as a whole and has been widely published and exhibited throughout the world." The gallery alerted police to Nan Goldin's photo on the eve of an exhibition featuring her work, and Northumbria police said the photo was taken from the Baltic Centre for Contemporary Art in Gateshead to assess whether or not an offence had been committed. Goldin's frank and often sexually explicit work has drawn critical acclaim, as well as police attention. In 2001, London police demanded that the Saatchi Gallery remove one of Goldin's photographs, saying it was indecent. The gallery refused, and officials later backed down, saying there was no realistic prospect of securing a conviction in the case. In 2021, Goldin took part in a protest by a group of more than 150 artists, activists, curators, and collectives who signed a petition demanding that the Museum of Modern Art remove billionaire Leon Black from its board over the philanthropist's extensive ties to the late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Leon Black announced plans to step down as chief executive of the multi-billion-dollar private equity firm he founded, Apollo Global Management, after an independent investigation found that he had paid Epstein $158 million in fees between 2012 and 2017. An inquiry later found no evidence that Black took part in Epstein's abuse. Black did not stand for re-election as board chairman of MoMA in New York. At a separate protest advocating for the creation of an overdose protection center in New York, artist Nan Goldin was arrested after she was seen locking arms with other activists. After about an hour of sitting and chanting in front of the 3rd Avenue skyscraper, NYPD officers arrived to arrest Goldin and other activists. Next up, Sarah Ferguson, ex-wife of Prince Andrew. The Duchess of York shared her views on the Schofield scandal, saying nobody has the right to judge. On her podcast Tea Talks with businesswoman Sarah Jane Thompson, the duo discussed the role of social media, with the royal agreeing it was like a huge game of Chinese whispers, branding it the court of public opinion. As a result, the mother of two argued, it generates massive bullying to the point of extermination of a soul. I don't believe that anybody has that right to judge and exterminate a person's own beliefs, she continued. Sarah also agreed with Jeremy Clarkson's assessment that Phillip Schofield had been a victim of a witch hunt and homophobia. She urged social media users to reserve their judgment, adding, "We all have failings. Could everyone please take a beat or make a cup of tea before you judge another human being without knowing all the facts?" She continued. "We don't know the facts. We certainly don't know what people get up to. Sarah Ferguson has been in the news again herself recently after Jeffrey Epstein's private diary revealed he met with her at his Manhattan mansion in 2010 while he was still under house arrest for having sex with underage girls. His private calendars from March that year reveal that he would make room in his schedule for her, telling his assistant, Duchess anytime. Photos posted by his driver and housekeeper in February and March 2010 show Fergie and Andrew visiting the financier's New York mansion. The hundreds of pages in the files give an unprecedented insight into Jeffrey's extraordinary network of power and influence. Presidents, prime ministers, royalty, and famous names previously not linked to Epstein are also featured in the emails and calendar entries. Fergie's relationship with Epstein dates back to at least April 1998, when an entry on the flight logs for his private plane has him meeting her at Nassau Airport in the Bahamas. Fergie had divorced Andrew 2 years earlier, but the two remained close friends, as they still are today. In May 2010, Sarah Ferguson was caught in a newspaper sting asking for $550,000 for access to Prince Andrew. She told an undercover newspaper reporter, "That opens up everything you would ever wish for. I can open any door you want, and I will for you." She later said that she deeply regretted making the comments and said her ex-husband had no idea about meeting with the undercover journalist. Fergie had apparently been driven to such measures because of her $5.5 million debts, but in July 2011 she said that they had been paid off thanks to the intervention of Andrew. A 2011 report in Vanity Fair claimed that Fergie received hundreds of thousands of dollars from Jeffrey Epstein to clear her debts, far more than she previously admitted. Edward Klein wrote that Fergie's debts were the major reason Andrew spent time with Epstein. A source told the magazine, "Andrew feels responsible for Sarah. There have been newspaper reports that Sarah got £15,000, $17,000, from Jeffrey, but I think that Sarah has actually received hundreds of thousands of dollars from him." Epstein appeared to have fallen out with Fergie in 2012 after she called him a paedophile in an interview with London newspaper The Evening Standard. He was said to be incensed about her comments, and a lawyer for Epstein sent the Duchess a letter demanding a retraction, but Henderson said he told her to ignore it. Next, we take a look at Piers Morgan, who wrote a biography of Phillip Schofield in the 90s, speaking about his interview with the BBC's Amol Rajan. Morgan said, "I have known him a long time, 35 years. I looked at the guy and thought, you are completely broken." Piers then urged people to stop criticizing Schofield, telling viewers, unless the young man comes out and contradicts Phillip Schofield's version of events, or somebody else comes out with new revelations, what else do people want? Phillip Schofield is a broken guy. He's not going to work on television again, almost certainly. He's lost everything in his life. I don't know what more the baying mob on Twitter wants from Phillip Schofield that he hasn't already lost. In December 2021, Piers Morgan had to explain a photo of himself with disgraced socialite Ghislaine Maxwell, who was found guilty and sentenced to 20 years for conspiring with Jeffrey Epstein to recruit, groom and abuse minors. Piers took to Twitter to give an explanation as to why he was once connected with her. Alongside the photo of them both, he wrote, "To everyone gleefully sending me this photo, I met Ghislaine Maxwell at a book launch in New York in 2013. We spoke for 5 minutes about her father Bob, who once owned the Daily Mirror. She seemed nice. Obviously, she's a monster. Sadly, I'm not a psychic. Hope this helps." Piers went on to address the subject in another tweet as he posted a collage of photos of himself with various other celebrities such as Rolf Harris and Harvey Weinstein. He said, "I've interviewed thousands of people over the years, a tiny number of whom later turned out to be sex offenders. It's been brought to my attention that I've been photographed with a number of famous people and am therefore guilty by mere association with them. I can only apologize for this gallery of shame." Alongside his sarcastic message, he shared photos of himself with beloved famous figures including the Dalai Lama, Nelson Mandela, Stephen Hawking, and even the late Queen. He also threatened to block any users who tried to make any comments about past interviews he has done with certain celebrities, writing, "Now I've, again, explained these pics. Anyone who sends me them going forward to make some fatuous nonsensical, gotcha, point is getting blocked. You've been warned, so no tearful, I was drunk. Piers, please forgive me, please for mercy if you ignore this directive." Again on Twitter, Piers described Maxwell as a vile sex trafficker. He said that her conviction and then upcoming sentencing could lead to a lot of rich, powerful and famous people sweating tonight. Another Schofield defender, Saint Trinian's and an ideal husband actor, Rupert Everett, said coverage of Schofield's affair was homophobic and outrageous and should be dropped by the media. Everett is voicing a new documentary on playwright, actor and director Noel Coward, who was a closeted homosexual at a time when it was illegal to be gay. Speaking to Channel 4 about the fallout from Schofield's affair, Everett said, "What's he done? He's married and has had an affair with someone that's legal to have an affair with. Unless there's something else that we haven't heard about, they should drop it. It's outrageous, this kind of Puritan fascism that's going on. If it's just about him having an affair and lying to his agency, why can't you lie to your agent?" Everett said the affair was not the business of anyone but Schofield, not even his former This Morning sofa mate Holly Willoughby. In an article by The Sun in 2016, Rupert Everett revealed that he was transgender as a child and dressed as a girl for 8 years between the age of 6 to 14, but said he decided a year later that he no longer wanted to be a woman. He warned about the dangers of today's kids having sex change operations, saying parents who get medical are scary. Everett said, "I really wanted to be a girl. Thank God the world of now wasn't then, as I'd be on hormones and would be a woman. After I was 15, I never wanted to be a woman again. It's nice to be allowed to express yourself, but the hormone thing, very young, is a big step. I think a lot of children have an ambivalence when they are very young to what sex they are or what they feel about everyone. There should be a way of embracing it." The film star, who is openly gay, also spoke of how his former girlfriend Beatrice Dole, the French actor, thought she might have been pregnant with his child. He added, "She and I often talk about what would have happened if we'd both had this child. And I would have loved to have had that child, actually. God, it probably would have been in rehab by now." He also revealed that he was turning into his mother and planned to move back in with her in Norfolk. Everett faced a backlash on Twitter about the controversial comments about transgender people. He had also mentioned Caitlyn Jenner, who he insisted had no clue what being transgender would entail. One Twitter user said, says Rupert Everett, known gender and child psych expert, "Caitlyn is not a child and her transition was not a teenage whim." And finally, we have Schofield defender and LGBTQ+ rights campaigner Peter Tatchell, who says the trashing of Phillip Schofield over his secret affair with a younger male colleague has more than a whiff of homophobia. The former Labour politician said that the age gap between Schofield and the young man is cast as sordid and abusive, and that such outrage was not caused by other high-profile heterosexual relationships. In a statement shared with the PA news agency, Tatchell said the fallout was a rank double standard and that anti-gay prejudice is explicit on social media and implicit in much of the national media. He added that Schofield's partner was not a child when they had begun their relationship and the man had made no complaint against him. Tatchell also said that Schofield has not committed a crime. He lied to his employer and work colleagues, and that is wrong, but it is not a criminal offense. It is a matter between Schofield and his fellow employees and bosses at ITV. It's nobody else's business. In an article with the headline Peter Tatchell, Children Have Sexual Desires at an Early Age, published by The Telegraph in July 2021, it states that Tatchell praised the courage of those selling what he later described as a pro-pedophilia book. In a review of a 1986 collection of essays compiled by Warren Middleton, former vice chairman of the Paedophile Information Exchange, PIE, Mr. Tatchell said that children should be educated so that they can decide when they want to have sex. Mr. Tatchell had even written a chapter for Middleton's anthology Radical Perspectives on Childhood Sexuality, Intergenerational Sex, and the Social Oppression of Children and Young People, but has since attempted to distance himself, claiming that he was conned into contributing to, quote, that vile book. The Telegraph revealed that a year after the book's publication, Mr. Tatchell submitted a review praising the way it speaks coolly, clearly and radically about a subject which has far too long been shrouded in emotional hysteria and adult chauvinism. Mr. Tatchell's chapter in the book, written when the age of consent for gay men was 21, argued laws criminalizing underage sex do more harm than good. Other chapters covered child pornography and prostitution, incest, and how to make pedophilia more acceptable. In the review for the newsletter of the Communist Party of Great Britain in 1987, Mr. Tatchell wrote, "Society would remove a lot of fear, anxiety, and depression if, instead of repressing children's sexuality, it acknowledged the fact that many children have sexual desires at an early age and accordingly educated children, so they are able to make free, informed, and responsible decisions about when and with whom they have sex." Later, Mr. Tatchell said that he had still not read the book when he submitted the review, which a colleague had drafted, adding, "I apologize unreservedly for putting my name to this review, and for failing to make clear my unconditional opposition to adults having sex with children." The review emerged just weeks after a documentary celebrating the campaigner's life was released by Netflix. In hating Peter Tatchell, celebrities including Stephen Fry and the aforementioned Sir Elton John lined up to praise Mr. Tatchell's work. Chris Smith, the former Labour MP, describes him as a national treasure, and Dr. George Carey, the former Archbishop of Canterbury, says he was on the right side of history. The documentary, in which he is interviewed by Sir Ian McKellen, makes no mention of his comments on children and sexual desires. But Mr. Tatchell has long been dogged by accusations of being a paedophile apologist. He faced a storm of criticism in 1997 for writing a letter to The Guardian in defense of another controversial book. In the letter, he claimed that some of his friends had sex with adults from the ages of 9 to 13. None feel they were abused. He later said that the letter, which he pointed out said it was impossible to condone paedophilia, was edited before appearing in the newspaper. In an interview republished on his own website claiming to set the record straight on his views, Mr. Tatchell describes Middleton's book as pro-paedophilia, saying, "I had no idea that it had any connection to PIE and that it would even mention paedophilia, let alone justify it. If I had known, I would not have agreed to write anything for that dreadful, nauseating book." But his denials have been called into question by his review of the same book, still available in the archives of the British Library. Headlined, "Radical Thoughts on Consent," Mr. Tatchell noted in the review that Middleton had found it impossible to get a publisher. He continued, "I am only writing this review because it seems that no one else is willing to risk association with this taboo subject." He wrote that while the authors oppose coercive and exploitative child sexual abuse, they also argue that consenting, victimless sexual relationships between younger and older people should not be penalized by the law. The review goes on to argue there should be greater rights for children, who should be given opportunities to exercise power and choice in every facet of their lives, including their sexual and emotional feelings. Mr. Tatchell said that he had still not read the book and did not know of its connections to PIE when he was asked by a person I trusted to write a review condemning the censorship of it in 1987. His colleague drafted the review as he was too busy, the former Labour Party parliamentary candidate claimed, while Mr. Tatchell himself made some stylistic changes. Mr. Tatchell claims that he only learnt of the true contents of the book and Middleton's connections when it was sent to him years later and he felt tricked and betrayed. "I am very sorry and deeply regret the terrible mistake of submitting this review. I was very wrong," he said when approached by The Telegraph. "It does not reflect my opinion that adults should never have sex with children and that children cannot consent to sex with adults. Once more, I apologize unreservedly." Mr. Tatchell said that he condemns sex abuse and has never knowingly been in contact with anyone involved or associated with PIE. He added, "I have always supported victims of child sex abuse in their quest for justice. For the record, my view is that paedophilia is the sexual abuse of children." Please like and subscribe for more journeys through the Blinkerhole.